Hello, welcome. This is the Daily Dharma. My name's Dina. Thank you for joining. Why don't you go ahead and pick a spot by the fire here and set your vibes. Got a change in consciousness, upgrading, changing the heart space, maybe a change of heart, maybe something that needs to be communicated. Field of awareness is growing. Change in consciousness under the deck with the growing field is that as we gain momentum on our healing journey, there's greater accountability, greater self-awareness leads to breakthroughs on those ego fronts. Transition, so shaking loose the debris of old habit patterns, old scripts and narratives that do not serve our highest purpose. We're getting out of our own way. Isn't that nice? Ooh, that Merkaba is nice and excited. Look at how this field is so sparkly and activated. Oh, which reminds me, we've got some, at the time of this broadcast, I mean, yeah, they're all somewhat timeless, but at the time of this broadcast, if you're following along in time, there's a lot of solar activity lately. And this morning, I listened to someone who specializes in the solar activity, and the YouTube creator's name is Stephen Burns, I believe. And he talks about how the conjunction with Pluto and Venus, I believe, was where there was a lot of solar activity happening recently. And then with the alignment of Moon, Earth, and then Venus and Mars conjunct, that was the timing of the secondary. There were two flares that are still heading our way, and the CME measurements are still in process. So anyways, I feel that that's a solar activation, and the sun came into the reading, I don't know if it was yesterday, a few days ago. They kind of run together for me because the energies are somewhat slow moving and redundant sometimes, so we get the same messages because the energies are moving through and overlapping. So the solar activation comes through, it's those golden light codes, and as they are absorbed and taken into our Merkaba field, there's an activation and excitement of the particles, and the activation, it's like I said before, those paddles that we get jolted by when there's a heart event. So we saw heart chakra change here. So it's like an overstimulation to the heart space creates an emotional release or an emotional responsiveness related to things that are shaking loose. And that's the process, I believe. So a dynamic excitement is triggering our alchemical self, and that's the chemical self. We talked about catalysts the other day, whether in your diet or in your life, the way that influences come through. Now we have compassion coming through. Having self-compassion during this time is going to be crucial, because unless we're able and willing to unconditionally love ourselves, we will not be able to comprehend the depth of the changes that accountability demands of us. And until we're ready to forgive it, we won't be able to fully see the part that we play into certain circumstances. And again, for those, allowance, the circumstances that we are allowing to persist based on what we are allowing to come into our conscious awareness and what we're willing to take action upon. 444. Yes. An alchemical empowerment. So the chemical response, it's talking about the emotional, the diet, the habits, the thought patterns that are resisted or indulged, there is change. There is an awakening, an illuminated center. Yes. Magic and belief, for better or for worse, we need to be able to have our emotions in a stable place to be able to create the appropriate kind of magic. And with greater accountability, then there's less of the ego's influence telling us to either be defensive or to the accidental one upper, the person that doesn't understand they need validation, or that every time that something comes out of somebody's mouth, they're, oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And 10 minutes later, they've talked about their stuff and nothing ever is really shared, right? I guess there's a little tangent there. But also magical belief, that's what we're talking about. Getting beyond self-illusions and delusions is huge, and it creates a huge recall of our power back into ourselves, because then, as we've been saying, as we discontinue projecting, justifying, and seeking for external validation, the more of our energy is held onto. There's a conservation of energy. There's a term that wants to be said, but maybe it'll come out. But it's something about conservation of energy, creating more empowerment, and that's the activation again, full circle. So magical belief. Magical belief here is the ability to believe in our own magical capacity to comprehend and to ascend. And by ascend, I don't mean like we're going to grow our literal 3D wings and float off towards the solar surface and through the eye of the sun. Not today. But ascending is that incremental energetic absorption and discharge process, the exchange with our environment. And as we can take in nourishment in an appropriate way from every type of substance, then discard, excrete the experiences that have that sticky residue that doesn't belong. So there's this clarifying process. And I don't know why we're going on these loops, but trust the process. There's some kind of magical something that's coming out here. Magical thinking. Soul time. Put that here. Actually, let's even put this. I went to grab magic and belief from the bottom of the deck, and I had shuffled it back in. Let's see what we've got. Dynamic cosmic flower, alchemy miracle, magic realization, and romantic belief. We've also had a lot of relational messages. So many of us may be dealing with a romantic situation that challenges us. There's a lot of individuals that do and do not subscribe to things like, oh, this is not going to work the way I had anticipated, but allow me to monkey with this for just a second here. Yeah, we're going to have to move on because I became distracted fixing these gemstones. I want all of these things to... Here we go. Don't touch anything, Dina. You can almost see everything. Transition stayed on the table. We'll put it there. So a transition in how we're seeing ourselves, this change in our field. Right. Okay. The distance and proximity, the push and pull that happens in relationships. There's some kind of a realization of the way that our magic is feeding into a relationship, and our beliefs about romantic love. We're recognizing a shift. There's a miracle at hand, right? And I believe that the miracle card comes out so often here because we're being asked to look at everyday miracles with more reverence. The things that we are praying for, like the lotto, for instance, many of us can't win the lotto because then it wouldn't work right. So instead of winning the lottery, Spirit tries to assist us by helping us through this transition with incremental things that help us to gain better alignment with the outcomes that we are desiring. So through these changes and through these processes, we are energetically aligning with our destinies and with our prayers. And so the gifts and the blessings are also incrementally coming to us for validation. And sometimes those things are non-monetary and non-socially validating. It's inner change and inner realizations that are creating that shift in our alchemical self, and the appreciation and witnessing of the miracles in our life. It's like that magical moment of realization that perhaps there's nothing missing. If we're resisting something in a relationship, it's some type of invitation to be self-fulfilling. Magical thinking, self-fulfilling prophecy. So why don't we prophecy not for our anxieties and fears as perhaps the previous habit patterns have yielded those results? Well, if we do that same thing, we'll get those same results. But if we can trust in the consistency and diligence of our growth and our compassion and our heartfelt alignments, and trust that the universe is our partner, then we're able to really pay more attention and generate more magic and more blessings into our life. There's the Merkaba again. So there is this change and expansion going on for ourselves. Divine Feminine continues to show itself for us. Gaia, for many of us in whatever fashion, however profound or mundane, we are all probably viewing this as members of a collective that is here to birth more compassion and heartfelt connectivity with spirit. We're grounding and reinforcing the feminine power here on Mother Earth. And in that way, we are often what's that, mouthpieces or speakers when you use one individual to stand for an entire collective. We're the forerunners in many groups that we touch or inspire with the way that we are grounded in our feminine power. And that might not look like, highly processed hair and nails and whatever, but that our divinity, masculine or feminine, you can be very, very heterosexual male and still be a powerful, even perhaps the most powerful standard for enlightening the collective to the value of the feminine. Because it's not in the brothers that stand with us and sisters that stand with us to say that we have value. It's the ones that seem quite different that also say, no, I also am not part of that collective, but I stand for their value as well. So there's something here that they even talk about this in circumstances of bullying. So I don't know if this has any type of sub messages for you, but where if you witness someone else being bullied or someone else's process of pain, sometimes all it is necessary for us to do is perhaps not say anything or do anything except stand next to them and just in a show of solidarity. And I may not be able to solve this for you or fix anything, but I'm not going to abandon you in this moment. Somebody may be dealing with a troubling circumstance where this individual that is troubled is striking out, and the ones closest are bearing the brunt of this and wondering, is this the toxic moment to leave? And I would never advise you to stay in a toxic environment, but I would definitely say that vows may be being looked at. And every situation is different. So take everything that I say absolutely through your higher intuition. You know best what's right for you. But in this reading, it appears that there's magic in this relationship and that it's not time to abandon. At the bottom of the Archetypes deck, we have the King. So the King has ups and downs, a lot of responsibility, and his own set of illusions where the responsibility to protect and create and provide, masculine or feminine can be the King, maybe a manager or somebody that others rely on, a mother and father, the single parent. There's this need for maintaining structure and control and authority. But there's also a very deep need for being the compassionate one that also allows others to cry and to be irrationally, emotionally, magically in a healing process. So it's a lot of loyalty being looked at here. Realization of our own magic to shift a circumstance, whether we stay or whether we go. The heart chakra's up here too. And the Hunter. What are we looking for out of this circumstance? What are our expectations and what are the appreciations? If we can take time every day to recognize a bunch of good or a bunch of bad, are we equally aware of pros and cons? Maybe somebody's writing some types of lists. Sometimes it can be helpful to do free writing and perhaps even write everything that you would never want anybody to read afterwards. Write it all down, get it all out, have your emotional breakthroughs and your recognition of what's buried in your subconscious, and then perhaps burn that in a fire and say, I release all of these things from my life. I no longer need to hold you. If there's more to be seen, then show me now. Help me to know how I can best work with the energies at hand for my safety, security, and those around me. All of these things. The eternal child comes from the heart. Getting back in touch with the inner child. I was telling someone today when I had some realizations of my own, I was saying that sometimes I wish that the healing had some type of ending and that I could just be done with it. And it's like, yeah, you think you've made it through something, and then unbeknownst to you, you're operating from another layer or octave of the old patterns. And then when you see it, it's like, I sometimes refer back to, there was a reading a long time ago where the phrase, sorry, somebody's arriving. It took my moment there. It took my attention. Shh, cool. Dog may make a noise. But there's no point of arrival in our healing process, and that once we figure everything out, there's a new goal. And once we've attained all of our learning, then there's this cycle of death that's also teaching us how to release. And these deaths and births happen along the way for us. So there's this inner child that I was saying, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I've already healed you. Can't you just go to your room, wounded inner child? We've done that. And it's like, we don't want to dismiss our feelings in that manner. We want to ask the wounded child, I'm sorry. I know that I was being the authority here and that I thought I had much more important things to do than do this healing, but come back and show me, explain to me the process. How did I overlook the needs that were at play here? How was something making me feel vulnerable or sensitive? And here we split it to the Father and the eternal child. Oops. I just had some nerves because of somebody walking around out there. So now this is coming into the reading. Perhaps you have an unexpected visitor. I suddenly am done with this deck, so we'll just see Father and the forest. Yeah, this was coming through the other day. Can't see the forest for the trees. We can't see the individual because of our associations and our typecasting of other individuals. So, one for good measure, and it comes out with two. Thank you, Spirit. The sword, that lightning bolt, that activation from the sun and the moon coming in for us. There's a seed in our subconscious that's awakening, and the Father and the animal. Seeing through our nature in a new way, there's this activation of the seed, the quickening of the seed in its germination phase. And the seed is always a precursor to other things. So maybe let's just close this out then with a Tao message. Just one. I'm just going to take one. Sometimes this deck really likes to talk. I'll take that one. And the bottom one. 48. In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less do you need to force things until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. True mastery can be gained by letting things go their own way. It can't be gained by interfering. So yeah, there's this push-pull energy, contradictory energies between advice and what we have the urge to do. And Spirit is telling us to rest and not feel super hurried and distracted by the process of doing and achieving. Not to dismiss things and say I'm too busy, but to call things back. To be the father that takes the sick day for no other reason than it's necessary to reconnect to someone very important. And with father, it may be the child or something, the brainchild here, the seed that is being nurtured. Fathers can also give birth. So now we have the divine feminine and the father here. In 55, he who is in harmony with the Tao is like a newborn child or the eternal child that showed up. Its bones are soft, its muscles are weak, but its grip is powerful. It doesn't know about the union of male and female, yet its penis can stand erect, so intense is its vital power. It can scream its head off all day, yet it never becomes hoarse. So complete is its harmony. The master's power is like this. He lets all things come and go effortlessly without desire. He never expects results, thus he's never disappointed. He's never disappointed, thus his spirit never grows old. Yes, no point of arrival, because we have no expectation of completion. When we can not say, oh, well, I've got to go and crush it today. I got to go to the gym. I've got to do this thing. Sometimes there's not, because as that newborn child, that eternal child is so much wiser and so much more powerful because its energies aren't wasted in the friction between masculine and feminine, between do I stay, go, or do I love, or do I go in my ego, or do I heal, or do I escape and numb out. There's a lot of vitality here at hand when we stop objectifying, materializing, processing, and scattering our soul parts and energy. And when we recollect that and say, I'm going to gather all that back up and give myself time to transition, time to acclimate to these new energies that have me frazzled. I'm not going to go to work today and harm the people that I need to work with in synergy. I'm going to nurture my inner animal that's ready to bite people's heads off. And I'm going to just let people know that I'm temperamental and this doesn't belong to you. I'm in the process of healing. Just need a moment. All right. Take your moments and be healthy and wealthy. And we'll check back again with you tomorrow. Thanks all.